morning, evening, dear nights, countless and countless ladies and gentlemen who quest or troll the wonderful land of YouTube. My name is Trollumbo, and welcome to a movie review. Yes, I'm doing a movie review of Doctor Strange. Well, I went to see the movie without Metal, that's why I'm actually doing this alone, yeah. So, let's dive right into it. It is something a little bit different from your typical Marvel movie, because most Marvel movies have actually been based, well, around... There is always some kind of, basically, pseudoscience backing up a superhero's power, or they use science to make their suit like Iron Man and stuff. So, you have had that, but now you have the first actual character that has some kind of spiritual power, like... something magical. It's the first actually magical character. It won't be the last, because I know there's gonna be an Iron Fist series. Let me talk a bit about the visuals in this movie. I went to see the movie in 3D, and do I suggest going to see it in 3D? Well, it depends on what you want. Like, a lot of people now are used to having like bright colors and stuff on television, like the deeper black and the bright colors. And there is still a bit of a vagueness, like you lose a bit of sharpness even with the glasses on when it comes to 3D, and you lose a bit of color intensity. That is a bit of a downside. But, well, everything pops out as in like it should, because it's 3D. And for some of the effects you see in the movie, I think it's better to see it in 3D just for those. But there have been some cardboard cutouts set up here. That is kind of what I call the issue. It's where you have a 3D thing that doesn't look like it has depth. It does look like it's on another plane of depth, but it looks like it has no depth itself, like the object itself has no depth. I've seen a few, not many, but I've seen a few of, so it still is a bit of an issue there. I haven't noticed any when I saw Civil War, for example. I think I just saw 2 instances of that happening. I didn't see more of it. Another question you may ask yourself is, are the visuals kind of true to the comics? If you're a comic fan, you will know that Doctor Strange is very inspired by its time period, because I think it's, the character originates from the 60s, and the visuals are kind of inspired by a lot of, well, basically hippie type artwork and stuff, where you have the repetitions going on. There's a lot of color, explosions of color, there's vague shapes going around. It looks like a toned down version of it. Color-wise, like the color scheme has been toned down a bit. Like, it isn't an explosion of primary colors like it is in the comics. Well, primary and some secondary like green and stuff do appear, but apart from that, I guess that what you have there is, it's more based on shapes and less on the color a lot of the time in the movie. But there are some instances of color shining through, like some bright contrasts. So I think I saw a bit of orange purpley going around when in a certain scene. Trying to avoid spoilers there. So visually it was stunning, and it is well worth paying a few extra bucks to see it in 3D, unless you really, really like the brightest of fucking colors. I don't need the brightest of fucking colors. I don't need a movie to look exactly like a comic. I think it needs to be an adaptation of it that actually is its own thing to some extent. So visually, it should be more realistic while staying true to the comic books. And I think the movie visually did this. It really did look like it could pop out of the comic, but more lifelike. Then we go to sound. Sound design, music. All I can say is that, to me, I didn't really pay that much attention to the music and the sounds themselves. Which, you may say, well, you did a bad job at reviewing a movie, like watching it when you reviewed. You could say that, but then again, it also means that nothing was too much out of the ordinary, because if I hear a weird, stupid sound that doesn't seem like it fits the atmosphere that the movie's trying to create, then I'm gonna be like, what the fuck was that? And I didn't even have that, so I guess the movie did a good job there as well. and the music fit with it. It helped build the atmosphere that the visuals were providing. There was like a nice interplay between the audio and the visual, like the audio-visual concepts. They were both good. They worked well together. They created a nice harmony, like a pleasure for the eyes and ears. It was nice. The last thing we can talk about before I go into spoiler territory is the acting itself. What did I think of the acting? I think, for example, if we look at the main character, if we look at what Benedict Cumber did... If we see what Benedict Benedict Cumberbatch did? Did I fuck up? Was it? Why do you have such a hard name? If we look at the work that the actor did, we can see that he actually did a great job. When you have a superhero, you always have like the split personality thing going on, because they will always they will enhance a certain part of their personality more when they put on the mask, put on the suit, put on whatever, than when they are just being their plain old regular self. Basically, this we can't really say that the character of Stephen Strange was his plain old self. Like, he was already like a lot of them. He was already kind of extraordinary before he became. Well, like a lot of them, I don't think they're all. Like, Captain America wasn't really an extraordinary person before he started. Well, but that's just a completely different thing. Let's just say, like, comparable to Tony Stark, he was like a genius character. He was a neurosurgeon, like a renowned neurosurgeon. But it really did show off the character of Stephen Strange. They showed what type of a doctor he was, and he was a bit arrogant and stuff. And basically, what they did was show off who this person was and what change he was gonna go through to become this Doctor Strange character. Yeah, well, there was a lot of a change, and they showed his hardships along the way, and it was really, the emotions were done right for me as well. I could feel what they were feeling. Like, most of the characters that were important and had more emotional moments. Obviously, like, some of the characters that had like a most of an emotional interplay was the character of Stephen Strange, and then the character of the doctor lady, whose name I forgot. Yeah. So I guess we can get into the story. So without giving away all of the story, what did I think of the story? Well, the story worked nicely with actually the rest of the movie, because you have all of those aspects. There's the acting, there is basically the visuals, there is the audio, and I said like the audio visual aspect, like it was a nice harmony between them. And that also worked with the acting. The acting reinforced the atmosphere that it was going for. And the story actually also worked with that atmosphere, obviously, because to convey a story, you need to convey the emotions within. You can't just come up with dry facts, but that's not an interesting story, obviously. And they did reinforce each other. Like, there wasn't like a nice support. Like, the story was there, then you had the acting conveying the emotions, the visuals, and the sounds. And it was like all one nice wrapped sandwich that was a delicious sandwich, like a bacon sandwich, something. Bacon barbecue sauce sandwich. Now I want a bacon barbecue sauce sandwich. But anyway, moving on. The story started off with the character, like, showing off the character of Stephen Strange as an arrogant doctor. It actually showed his transformation into the Doctor Strange character, which was nice, slow paced. You could see something was holding him back, and there was this moment of realization, like an epiphany, and there were dramatic deaths, kind of, because you had the Ancient One dying and stuff, which has an effect on the story. Then you had all of the type of renegades type characters that were like, oh, fuck this Cumberbatch thing, we want to do our own thing, we want to live forever. And that's a good thing as well. The motivation for the bad guys, well, I can't speak for Dormammu, because like it's kind of like a god tier character almost in the movie, and it's like really strong, kind of like a powerful character. But then you have like the other guys, which are basically being tempted by the promises of Dormammu, and these promises work with the characters, because the main I can't say the main villain, but like the main human villain is basically a guy that has lost so much, and that basically has this like primal urge of survival has kicked in, and he really wants to stay alive, and that's his prime drive here. He really wants to stay alive. That's what he's going for. It's, yeah, it does work, and it works as a motivation for him. It does show the humanity of this character. It is one of humanity's drives, like staying alive. We have this primal urge to survive, and this movie, the bad guy is playing off of that. He tries to get the audience to empathize with him, and to some extent you do understand what he's going through, and to some extent that works as well, and to some extent you can see what Stephen Strange thinks of it, and you can see that he tries to tempt Stephen Strange with the same things, and he's trying to tempt the audience at the same time, kinda. You have this whole thing dynamic going on, but then Stephen Strange doesn't want to, and he doesn't take the bait, and well, that's when they further square off, basically. Then he gets the cloak. The cloak is also awesome. It works into, and the way it's weaved into the story, it appears, and it comes around at the right time. They show all of the basically plot devices that come into play, like actual plot devices. They show them at the right time. They come back at the right time. You don't really forget that they're there, and they're not just there like, oh, what a coincidence, we need this. It's not like that. They show up at the right time and they're there, and that's done well as well. And then I really like the ending as well, the way he fixed it. Like, at first he was being that arrogant character, and then he needed to find some kind of balance between still having his personality, like the arrogant personality, but then showing some humility. He needed to tone down some parts of his personality and like increase other parts of it, and he needed to find a balance for himself. And in the end he did find that, and like actually like the final scenes kind of gave that away as well. Like he was now persistent, like he wanted to go for something. They still showed his stubbornness and his willingness to break rules, and he took what was seen by some as his darker, bad side and turned it into something positive that he could use. That's a nice way to end a movie, like showing off that anyone's weaknesses can become their strengths, and it was a nice way. It was a nice way to end the story. His persistence gets the problems fixed, because what happens is he convinces Dormammu to let Earth alone, but he gets to take his little minions with him, so those get sucked into the dark dimension. Those are gone, they can't wreak any havoc anymore. Dormammu fucks off, and the day is saved. It's a great story there. I liked it. It has to be one of my favorite Marvel movies now. I think that the acting is just that little more subtle than in lots of them. Kind of like the light romance type angle coming in was more subtle than it was in other movies. Yeah, well, they handled it well, and they adapted. From what I see, they adapted the comics in a great way, because I did check into the comics. I didn't fully read stuff yet, but I did check like what does the artwork look like, and I did check into like character backgrounds and stuff. I did kind of get myself informed, but it's harder to. That's it. I would suggest that you'd see this movie. It's a great one. I think it's nice. I think it's a good movie. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Did you like this movie if you saw it? If you haven't seen it, do you want to go see it? Is there something holding you back? You can always strike up a conversation about that. Like, do you not have enough money to go see a movie at the moment? Do you want to see so many other movies that actually take priority? What is holding you back from watching this movie if you do want to see it? If you don't want to see it, maybe you could also talk about that. Like, I'm not a Marvel fan, I prefer DC or something. Somehow. Do people prefer DC? Probably. I don't know. Catch you in the next video.